You're listening to Radio Cosmos.
All night long.
Bravo! My compliments, little lady.
Commercial!
Break for 30 seconds.
You are now listening to BaaD Radio.
Hello and welcome to BaaD Radio. BaaD stands for Business at a Distance. This is a show about local businesses and business networking. We are here in the News Radio WFLA Orlando studios from 11 a.m. to noon every Sunday, and I am your host, Angela Smarito. And before we jump into the show, I want to give a huge shout out to some of our show sponsors because without their support, we wouldn't be here now. Forge IT Consulting, providing a fully outsourced IT department with a personal touch for small business. ForgeITConsulting.com. Get Me Automated. Ashley and her team educate business owners to grow their business through custom automation. GetMeAutomated.com. And Osteopathic Health of Orlando. They offer integrative medicine, osteopathic healing, integrative medicine, and so much more. I think I said integrative medicine. No, regenerative medicine, and so much more. Visit osteopathic.healthcare. So I'd like to welcome a new guest. Please welcome Brett Mulock. Get it right?
Yes.
Okay.
Mulock, yes.
Mulock. Okay, dang it, with Roof Scene Services. I never get it right.
It's
You know when I'll get it right is at the end of the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Actually, I'll probably just go refer to Brett. So it's Mulock, but with a M.
Yes.
Mulock.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Well, thanks for being our guest today. Okay, so tell us a little bit about Roof Scene Services. So we've had some roofers on before. We've had some public adjusters on before. But I know quite a bit about the whole field just because we have another client who has a show called Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. So every week I get to hear more and more and more. And when you and I started having a conversation on the phone, I was like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about with the insurance companies. But first, tell us about Roof Scene Services and how you guys got started.
So Roof Scene Services started in 2019. I had been working in the roofing industry for, at that time, about 5 years.
Okay.
4 or 5 years. And
well, before, what were you doing before that?
I was in teaching. I was a manager at the Orlando Eye for photography.
Okay.
Did landscaping, a whole bunch of things.
Okay.
So then started Roof Scene Services while I was working in the roofing industry for myself to be paid as a 1099 employee, but also offer extra services. So I have a handful of realtors and just people in the society and community and whatnot that have questions about the roof. And instead of having to call someone to, quote, have a roof inspection and do this and sign the contract and do all this, they can call me and say, hey, can you just answer a few questions for me? And I've told them, I tell everyone education is free. And so through a lot of the local communities and their churches, I have a lot of clients that, hey, we got this, storm season coming up. Can you just come check out my roof?
Yeah.
And so I do that. Or, hey, I got a letter from the insurance company that says that I have 180 days for my roof because they say it's old. And I just put it on 8 years ago or 7 years ago or 5 years ago or 10. And I was like, okay. So I go out and check it out and take photos and show them what's up there.
Yeah, so roofing in the state of Florida, I don't know about any place else, has been a hot topic because of the storms and insurance companies and, we had all these insurance companies pull out of Florida and so they're starting to slow back in. But so if I am correct, people have a different deductible for hurricane versus the regular homeowners insurance, correct?
Correct.
And I'm sure that applies to me too, but I get so confused. I'm just like, okay, I want to be covered. I don't believe that insurance company is going to pay anyway. You know what I mean? And if they are, it's going to be like months of fighting back and forth. Like I said, I'm not a fan of insurance companies because I do not think that they are friends. I think that they want to take our money and not provide the services that they are hired to do. I think their goal is to keep our money and to have a profit. So yeah, like I said, I am a little jaded in that field. But again, like you said, everybody if you have a mortgage, you have to have insurance.
Right.
End of story. Right.
Yes.
So what is the current status of insurance companies with roofs right now? Is it 10 years? Is it 20 years? what's going on with it?
So there is some good news for us homeowners.
Okay. That's nice.
Yeah. The insurance companies are actually backing off a little bit. They're coming in with an open mind, especially with the adjusters, and the brokers are becoming more knowledgeable and more aware.
Mm-hmm.
I was just talking with an insurance broker who was with a company that does multiple insurances. And so he can get you 8 different quotes. And he was saying that, and I've seen this experience myself when I go and send an email to a broker and the client and saying, hey, this roof, it's pliable. There's all the shingles are stuck down. There's no loose edges. There's no curling. There's no tree damage. There's no hail damage. There's, no wind damage and such. It's in good shape. And I give a plethora of photos with it. And they're like, oh, okay then. And the insurance company is accepting that. And so they're extending it. And they ask, they'll follow up with me and they'll say, does it have 1 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years, 5 to 8 years? It's a 3-year window. And most of the time I can say between 3 and 5 years. And they're like, okay, fine. We'll revisit this in 5 years then.
Okay. Well, that is good news.
It is. There are other insurance companies that are saying, no, you have to be a certified this or a certified that, licensed in the state of Florida to do this, to do that, which I am not. And what they're saying is, if you can contractually say that this roof has 3 to 5 years, and what they're doing is they're putting the liability back on the person who is inspecting that roof. So if something happens afterwards, they can go back to them and go, well, you said that. And it's like, really? Like, it doesn't need to come to that.
No.
But it is backing off a little bit. On the flip side of that, unfortunately, is you mentioned Richie Kidwell earlier, and he's a great guy. And
you know him?
Yes. And I'm a part of RAF.
Okay,
and,
Restoration Association of Florida. Excellent.
Yeah. Great thing. I've listened to Richie's radio show, and there was a report that came out from some of the attorneys that, all of us, are familiar with. And it said about 60% of insurance claims in 2024 were denied.
Yeah. Well, I meant Citizens alone for the 2 hurricanes. Yeah. They denied 77% of all claims, 77%. And then State Farm and all were followed not far behind.
Not at all.
So it's just wrong.
Right.
I'm sorry. There's not 77 false claims being passed out there.
No.
So, but I mean, what I like is that you're fighting for the homeowner.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a call, you go out, you do a house inspection. So will you have a call with like an insurance, what's the right word, an agent?
Yes.
Okay.
So what I do is I've had brokers call me, and I respect the brokers. They're becoming more and more knowledgeable about things.
Mm-hmm.
However,
when you say broker, are you talking about the somebody that works for the insurance company?
Yes.
Okay.
The broker so when you want new insurance, you call a broker to say, hey, please shop around for insurance for me.
Gotcha.
And that person gets you 3, 4, 5 quotes.
Mm-hmm.
They are knowledgeable in that area. They're licensed in that area. What they're not licensed in is the adjusting part, and they don't understand possibly what happens with a roof inspection or an interior inspection, and then going back and forth with what the estimate should produce, what they should look like and whatnot, the line items and such. So when a homeowner says, oh yeah, my broker says this, he says he recommends this, that's great. But that's an opinion.
Yeah. Okay.
Someone who is experienced in these things is the one you need to be speaking with.
Right.
It goes from roofers, people like me, and it goes to the public adjusters like you are aware of, or getting an attorney.
Yeah. Well, I think public adjusters play a very important role. But as I was saying last week, I think it was, is that a lot of people don't know what a public adjuster is or how to utilize their services properly.
Right. And so where I come in is, a homeowner calls me. So I have a client down in Bradenton. Her name is Jessica. And she reached out and said, hey, I heard, what you're doing for some neighbors. Can you help me out? My insurance company offered to replace 40 shingles on my roof. She had 2 trees land on her roof,
oh my
puncture holes into her roof.
I want to hear this story, but we are getting ready to go to break. So when we get back, I want to hear Jessica's story.
Oh, this is a good one.
I love Jessica. I love stories. So,
Great.
All right. So everybody stay tuned because we have more BaaD Radio coming up. Well, welcome back. This portion of BaaD Radio is brought to you by Premier Couples Superstore. There's no better time than now to visit Premier Couples Superstore because they've got a huge selection of lingerie, toys, love oils, and a ton of great gifts. 5009 South OBT or shop online at premiercouples.net because a couple that plays together stays together.
Oh, yeah.
And please welcome, we're here with Brett with Roof Scene Services. And I didn't want to forget the story. It's Jessica, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Jessica had not one, but two trees fall in her house?
Correct. 2 trees fall on her house. Her entire pool cage was split right in half. And it was a pine tree and then another Florida tree.
And it was due to a storm?
Yes.
Okay.
One of the hurricanes down in
okay.
Manatee County. And so I go out the day after the adjuster was there. I got the call that afternoon when the adjuster told her, oh, well, yeah, I found 40 shingles damaged. And so before he even put an estimate together, I got out there.
What was the insurance?
Oh my God.
It's okay.
Was it Liberty Mutual? Oh my, State Farm or Liberty Mutual?
Okay.
Anyways,
so it wasn't Citizens. It was one of the.
No, it was not Citizens.
Okay.
No. So I go out there. I see his chalk marks. He used blue on 2 slopes and he used yellow on the other 2 slopes. I'm like, okay, people run out of chalk, whatever. So I carry a plethora of chalk of myself. And so I got the pink chalk out and started marking. And literally 18 inches away from where he marked a couple damaged shingles, he did not mark where there is a hole through the shingles into the sheathing of where a branch punctured it. There was still wood sticking out from the hole.
Oh my God.
That was a splinter in her roof.
And so what did you do? Tell me the whole story. Okay, yeah.
So I reached out to the insurance company and
you circled it.
I chalked up
you
the
chalked
entire...
it and took pictures? Okay.
Yep.
And then what did you do? Put together a report?
No. So what I do is with the insurance companies, I try to always be a smiling face. I always try to be positive, always, stick with the, hey, I want to offer you a second opportunity to come out here. I know they're busy, right after the storm. I get it. There are 6 to 8 roofs a day. Mm-hmm. I get that they're overworked. They hire some freelance guys sometimes, or they pull people in from Utah, Colorado, all over, and come in and just flood the market. Some of these people from out of state aren't fully aware of Florida code, what is here. So I mark it up. I have a whole bunch of photos of every slope in order from left to right, going around or north.
When you say slope, what do you mean? I mean, I know the roof is sloped, but...
Correct. So a house usually has 2, 3, or 4 main slopes and then a bunch of smaller ones, whether it's a hip roof or not.
So you call like slope 1, slope 2, slope 3 kind of thing? And
yeah, some insurance companies do front, left, right, and rear and back.
Okay.
Other ones do north, west, east, south. And so based on who the insurance company is, that's how I will mark it up, and his markings were already there. And so what I did is where his markings were, what I found additional right next to his, above and below it.
So it would have been impossible for him to miss it.
Absolutely impossible. Because he was there after the trees were removed. Mm-hmm. And so everything was visible. There were still branches up there. There were still debris up there. But the trees had been removed from the tree company.
Wow. Okay. So what next?
I mark it up. I ask for her to introduce me to the insurance company.
Okay.
She introduces me through an email. I reach out to them. I say, hey, I'd like to have your adjuster or a new adjuster come out and everything. And they have guidelines on their time frame of when they're supposed to respond. And they're like, well, can you send us some pictures? Well, I already had that email and draft. So I sent 3. Yep. I had 3 photos. One of an overview of the most damaged slope, which is the rear slope where both trees ended up impacting, and then 2 close-ups. And so I sent that in, and I said, this is what we'd like to have reviewed. She responded back a day or 2 later and said, please provide me a full roof estimate. I want this. And
a full reinvestment?
Roof investment.
Okay.
Yeah, a new estimate. So she was asking me to do the adjuster's job. Mm-hmm. I tell her I'm not an adjuster. I will write up an invoice, an estimate of what I write up as and what I'm currently doing roofs for. So I produced that, and then they wanted a checklist of this. They wanted this. They wanted their job done for them.
I know. That's what it sounds like.
Right. So I said, well, at this point, I'm asking one more time for y'all to come out and bring this out. She responded back, that's not necessary. We trust what you're going to provide us with a fair number. So that's exactly what I did. I used estimates from 2 other jobs from the insurance companies. They use, most insurance companies use what's called Xactimate.
I've heard of that.
So I have someone who I pay to produce an Xactimate for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I showed him my line items, my photos. He went and took a quick look at it, put everything together. We sent it in. We did overhead and profit because now I'm doing their job. So
Exactly. Yeah.
doing everything. There's also some painting involved and, of course, the pool enclosure. And so submitted all that. They questioned 1 or 2 things, sent in a couple more photos of close-ups of, in color. They're like, okay. And after 5 months, the roof was completely approved.
So she got a whole brand new roof.
A whole brand new roof. We're about to put it on in about 8 or 9 more days. We're putting it on. The only thing that they did, and then this is where it's an out-of-state adjuster. Right now in the state of Florida, we have to do 2 layers of underlayment. That's the new code. It's been out. Well, not new. It's been out for several years now.
Okay.
Well, they only include 1 layer. So right now, they're already shorting me like $1,600.
And what did they say? The homeowner needs to come out with that extra
No,
$1,600 out of pocket?
No, they have a letter that says if there's any supplements or if there's anything, please let us know ahead of time, and so we can review this and all that stuff. So I have an email that's ready to go out to them and say, hey, going over your line items, this is what we missed. I will presume that on the depreciation check, this will be what's called paid when incurred. So it's like PWI on their things. So when the depreciation's paid, I'm asking that you do the PWI, paid when incurred, of the work that we do. And I'll send them photos of the first layer and then the second layer.
But aren't you putting yourself in risk of not getting paid? So you're doing the work, and then you're saying I'm expecting to get paid for this, but they can still say no. Correct. Right?
And in the past they have. And again, that's why I try to keep a friendly relationship with them. If hardball needs to be played, then that's when we call them a public adjuster or, whatever. I'm fortunate. I got scarred early on doing this in 2015 with a public adjuster. And I've come to learn that there are other public adjusters out there that are really good. So I'm able to shun away from that scarring that I had before. And there are some genuine good people out there that, have the same belief I have is the client comes first. And yes, why I enjoy making money and, paying for my boys and, paying for, family fun and all that. I kind of joke around. It's like, I only need 1 happy meal a week. My boys don't need to have 5 happy meals a week. So I'm willing to lose a little bit, with a client as long as I'm getting that roof put on.
No, I agree. So. So I love that story. I really, really do. I think that what you did was amazing. I think that because you had to do it and it took so long is just ridiculous. I think that the insurance companies make it way too hard for people to get what they pay for. Yes. And if you weren't here for Jessica would have got 40 shingles replaced. Correct. And she would have had a big old hole in her roof and it would have leaked. And I just, like I said, the whole thing is just, it's so unsettling.
It's despicable. It is.
Right. But you got paid for your time. Mm-hmm. So it took you 5 months to get this done. But like I said, it was worth your while, you're saying. Yes. Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure it was worth Jessica's while too, because now she got a new roof.
Yep.
I know one time our roof is about 7 or 8 years old, which, before like all the changes, I was like, okay, we are good to go. I don't have to worry about this for like another 10, 20 years. Now I'm like, okay, am I going to have to worry about this in 3 years, 2 years, once the roof is 10 years old? Right. Am I?
Yes and no. It depends. Like I said, it depends on your carrier, and it depends on showing them evidence that there are no issues with your roof. Mm-hmm. It kind of goes with, in Florida, we have the shingles now with GAF, Certainty, Tamco, all of those shingles, they have the limited lifetime warranty or they have the 50-year roof and all that stuff. Well, in Florida, that's really mute.
You know what? I'm going to have to cut you off, but I want to go back to that. So I apologize for that. But we're getting ready to go to break. So stay tuned. We'll have more BaaD Radio coming up. Welcome back. And this portion of the show is brought to you by Ground Up Property Services. Do you know what your sprinkler system did last night? Probably not. So now is a good time to get your irrigation system serviced by Ground Up Property Services today. And be sure to ask Rick Hall with Ground Up about a water sensor too, so your lawn doesn't get too much water. Call 407-468-4295 or visit groundupinc.net. We got some rain last night, though. Did you get some rain, too?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and we're in Winter Springs, and that's the heaviest rain that I think that we've gotten all year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's funny because my husband, he has this hate relationships with our gutters. And so as soon as it starts coming down, he is going around the house, making sure that the gutters, and we just had French drains put in because our house did flood with Ian, and it was groundwater. We have a sunken living room, and it filled up. And so we had that. It was a tremendous loss. And we didn't have flood insurance. We have flood insurance now, but we weren't in a flood zone. And so there was no reason to carry it.
Exactly.
But I think Ian brought 22 plus inches in 12 hours, and Winter Springs was already oversaturated anyway. Our neighbors literally had fish in their yard from Trotwood Park.
Oh my.
Yeah. So we're here with Brett, and his company is Roof Scene Services, and so he's telling us stories about how he's able to help homeowners get what they deserve to get anyway. We pay our homeowners insurance, and if you don't pay it, they make sure, that they're going to cancel you and you have to have it. And so your homeowners are kind of backed into a corner. And then when it comes time and we need to use them, they make it so difficult for us to be made whole again. And for the most part, I think I had Brooke Bolts on a couple times, and she's an attorney that works with claims. And she said that the ratio after that first denial is 80% of people give up after that first denial. So as a business practice, it's they just automatically send the denial.
Yes.
And then when the 20% that come back, then they try to stretch it out as long as they can. And the whole time, there's a good possibility that these people are getting more damage to their house because water's leaking in. So anyway, I want to talk more about your business, though, and the things that you do. So
Absolutely.
I don't want to talk about all that stuff. But that does apply to you.
Yes.
So like I said, right now, so tell us about some of the businesses, or not businesses, but the homeowners that you're working with right now. I mean, like I said, I would love stories, but I want the listeners to be able to understand who you are and what you do.
Okay. So I guess I have a couple different avenues of clients. I have several realtors who, when a house is either going on the market or a house is being looked at to be purchased, they'll reach out to me and say, hey, I have an inspection report and it says XYZ. Can you look at these photos and tell me or whatever and this and that, or can you go out there? Or sometimes it's, hey, they're saying that there's a leak or they saw stains in the attic. Can you get this addressed? And so, yes.
So that is from when you get your house inspected in that process. So the homeowner inspector came out and identified these things. And
Correct.
So you're going out to either legitimize them or say that they're okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I do is, let's say they found black stains or whatever in an attic. So then I go out there, I look at the roof first and see if I can identify where that stain is before I even get in the attic. See if there's something that's just, shingles are missing or lifted or whatever. So then I go in the attic, I check it out. I always have a FLIR with me.
I don't know what that is.
It's a moisture reading detector.
Okay.
And so I can, aim at it and check to see if it's active. If we haven't had rain in a few days, so like January, February, March, and April has been ridiculous.
Dry, yeah.
So I will get up there with a hose and I'll have the homeowner turn the hose on for me. I say, we're going to let this run for about 3 minutes. And I, just like a rainstorm, start at the top and let it run down,
Right.
Whether it's in the valley or by a skylight or whatever, chimney, whatever it is. So let it run down for a few minutes. Then I go inside, I FLIR it. If it doesn't change, I do it before and after. If it doesn't change, then that's not active. Unfortunately, what happens is there's been times in the past where in the state of Florida, it was fairly easy to become a roofer. They've been doing better. And the roofers who are surviving and who are outlasting those, fly by day, fly by nights.
Well, that's why the roofing company the roofing industry got such a bad rap is because we had these unlicensed people come in. It was after the 2004 storms is what hit us is, I don't know, Charlie. I know Charlie was the first one, but it caused so much damage and we were unprepared.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of scamming going on at that time.
There was. And unfortunately, what was happening is out-of-state roofers were coming in, and then they would pay subcontractors and say, hey, to this roofing company, XYZ, hey, I'm going to give you all these roofs. let me sign them up, and then I'm going to pass them off to you.
Right. And then they have the homeowner sign an AOB, and next thing you know,
Yeah.
the homeowner's sitting there with no new roof, and somebody else has got their money.
Yep.
Fun.
Yeah. So fortunately,
I'm glad that that's like a thing in the past, but unfortunately, a lot of the damage is done, especially with the people that were adults and had homeowners in 2004.
Correct.
So anyway.
Yeah. So I'll go out there, I'll take a look at it, and I say, well, this is fact. This is, what it is. Here's the pictures before, here's the pictures after, show a picture that the water is going down on the roof. And inside, timestamped, it's not there, it's not coming in. This is a piece of wood that wasn't replaced when this roof was put on 6 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago.
So it was a leak from a prior roof.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. Because I was going to ask that. I'm like, if it's not active, then how would that stain have gotten there in the first place?
Yes, that's happened. There's also been times where people had a kitchen fire, and where the vent is, the smoke went out through the vent. And so that wood is now stained. The fire might have only been 3 minutes. It might have just been on the stove. They put it out. They didn't file a claim. It was just an oil file.
Right.
Well, the smoke went up into the attic through the vent.
Okay.
So I show them, hey, I can remove that with my finger. If it's a color issue, let's spray it, let's paint it, and be done. Or get up there with some bleach water. So there's a lot of different little remedies. What's interesting, and my boss, the roofing company I work for, he's like, hey, be careful with those words. But the reality is, not everyone needs a new roof. There was in 2022, I kept accurate records. 2021, sorry. 2021, I kept accurate records, and I was literally at about 64% of roofs that I got on that did not need a new roof.
Really?
Yes.
Well, in my opinion, sometimes it's like with roofing companies. I think that once AOBs got kind of abolished, that they were less, gung-ho about replacing every roof that they got on. But for a while, it was like, if you get on a roof, it needs to be replaced. And then they would go through that whole process. And the homeowners didn't have to do anything. But again, like I said, that kind of behavior is what led to insurance companies doing what they're doing as well. So, if people could just be honest and not greedy and not trying to make money all the time, we wouldn't be in such the homeowners wouldn't be like in such a bad situation.
Right.
So, but anyway, so like I said, so you legitimize that issue and you say, yes, you do need to get this fixed. We can do that. Or you say, no, you don't have a problem here.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's great. So that's one service.
Yes. People have, tarping issues, or there's an active leak, after a main storm, or if a branch, or, whatever came through. So I'll go out there. I'll bring the guys, Miguel and his crew. We'll go out there. We'll tarp it. If it's a small tarp, I'll do it myself with one or two friends, business people. And so we'll get out there. We finish it off, tarp it, and then assess it when it's dry and say, okay, here's where we're at. This is what we're looking at. I'll tell them, if it was my place, I may recommend that you contact your carrier to see if this is something valid for a claim.
Do you help them though when they file the claim?
Afterwards, yes, I will provide an education for them.
Right.
I personally,
that they have certain keywords that you do not say when you're filing a claim, because they try to get you to say certain things that's going to invalidate.
Correct.
Their responsibility.
Correct. Unfortunately, there's probably still a few out there that they will actually file a claim for the homeowner. And as a contractor, that is not your place to do that.
Right.
There's, like you just said, there's words, there's legalities. If you bring in a public adjuster or an attorney, the rules have changed. That's their profession. That's not something I meddle with. I do use attorneys on occasion when, if me and a nice guy and trying to be, fair, I know that there's roofers out there. I'm friends with some of them that, they'll submit to the insurance company at $800 a square for a roof, where I know that I can do that for like $545 or $565, depending on that roof.
Interesting. All right. Well, we're going to go to break, and when we get back, we'll have more BaaD Radio, so stay tuned. Well, welcome back, and this portion of the show is brought to you by Frogger's Grill and Bar. Looking for a place to go with friends or meet new ones? Then you're looking for Frogger's Grill and Bar, and with 4 great locations, there is bound to be one near you. And you don't want to miss out on Frogger's amazing menu, where everything is fresh, never frozen. Oviedo, Mount Dora, Apopka, and Altamont Springs. Visit Froggers.com for more information. Frogger's Grill and Bar, hop in with food and fun.
Yeah, boy.
That is right. So we're here with Brett with Roof Scene Services, and what I really like about the conversation we're having today is because we're talking about real people, real life. Like, I don't feel like you're up here giving me your 60-second sales pitch. Like you're out there working with homeowners. You're getting on their roofs. You're dealing with the insurance agents and stuff like that. And that is what we need more of, is people that are willing to and be brave enough and be educated enough to talk to the insurance companies, because getting them to do the right thing is hard, but it's not impossible. Mm-hmm. And I think that the more people that are like you, the better. Like I'm one for the homeowner. Like I want the homeowner to be treated fairly. Correct. So we started talking about your services. So one of them was like you have realtors. So do you invite more realtors to contact you if they need somebody for your services, right?
Absolutely, yes.
All right, that's one source. Okay, so what are some of the other things?
My networking through, happy clients.
Mm-hmm.
I've been, like I said, been doing this for a while, and I started in 2015, and I still have those clients that I first started with that call me and say, hey, storm's coming up. Will you check out my roof, or do you want to wait till afterwards? I'm like, that's your decision,
right?
Decision. Or whatever.
Well, with hurricane coming up, what are your recommendations?
So if your roof is at that mark of 10 years or 12 years or whatever, it would be good to have your roof checked out prior to it. Throw a ladder up on the side and take a quick walk around and see if there's anything that just jumps out at you.
Right.
Hail damage you can't see from the street. A lot of the wind damage you can't see from the street. You might see a missing shingle or something like that, but small damage, or lifted areas and all that stuff, it's not something that's noticeable from the street or from your yard.
Mm-hmm.
What's funny is it reminded me of, we had a storm come through, a hurricane came through several years ago, and one of my realtors called me on his rental property and said, hey, they're saying there's some water coming in on the ceiling, some staining. We think it's the AC. We had it addressed once, but it might have happened again. And
right.
Can you check it out? I'm like, well, if you think there's something wrong with the roof, call now. Earlier in the show, you mentioned, the hurricane deductible versus this. Mm-hmm. So he called in the claim and, shared with him what his tenant shared. I was going from one roof to another because I had sandbags on some roofs, and so I had to secure those down. Well, I drove by his house, got up there, took about 3 photos, and saw, yes, there was some damage. I didn't check the whole roof out. I didn't have time for that. But it was obvious where some water was coming in.
So you could actually see it. Okay.
You could actually see it.
Yeah.
And so, and I did take a quick look in the attic. It was just line of sight. And so he did his thing. And about a week or so after the storm came around, adjuster comes out and he's like, so what's new and what's old? I'm like, dude, I don't know. Like, he's like, well, didn't you take pictures? I said, well, yeah, but that's your job. I'm like, you had time to come out here. And it was like, became a jovial type of thing of, he filed the claim. I'm sorry that the storm came in the process, or between the time you got out here. It's not my thing to say,
right.
To do your job. And why we were on the roof and doing the inspection and we get up in the attic, the homeowner, the tenant's bathroom stall overflows and just starts creeping out into the. So he says, well, we'll put both of these together in one claim. I'm like, no, no, that's separate. And he's like, no, we can do this together. We'll just do one since it's one big deductible. I'm like, what? So he sends estimates to me and to my client and shows, the interior, the exterior. And like I said, he literally had it on one claim with the hurricane deductible. I'm like, excuse me.
No. Yeah,
no.
Okay.
He has 2 $1,000 deductibles as opposed to over, I think it was like $9,200 deductible for the hurricane. I'm like,
he wanted to make it a hurricane deductible versus a damage. And he called the claim in prior to the hurricane.
Yes. And he went on record to say, well, because I got out of here after the hurricane, that's what makes it a sound decision.
What happened?
He went back and it got changed.
Good. Thank you.
I went through a supervisor and I said, look, I accept his estimate. I'm not going to even debate that he did great on his line items, but he made a mistake on the deductible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then they're like, well, he was paying accordingly on this because of the high deductible. He was trying to help out, which he gave us overhead and profit. I'm like, right, because we have painting in 3 rooms. We have floor that we have to clean. It was laminate flooring. So that's already done. And like, well, the flood, I'm like, I'm sorry that flooring was the same flooring that's connected to the bathroom where the water came in. Mm-hmm. But this was the first claim. That's what the wood is being covered. The planks are being covered under. So, and we got it resolved.
Oh,
and
that's so good.
Yeah.
But a normal, like a normal homeowner wouldn't know what to do with that.
Right.
They would have just taken what, and that's the problem is that, they think that they're in good hands. They think that they're being taken care of, and they're not.
Right.
They're not. And that's the part that's frustrating. So, but you went out there prior to the hurricane, right? And so you did have a picture of some damage prior. So you had that
Yes.
as proof that was there prior to the hurricane.
Correct. Yeah.
Now, if you had not had that, you probably wouldn't have been able to as easily. Well, I don't know if it was easy or not, but you know what I mean. It would have been a lot more difficult to prove your case.
Correct. However, the date of loss is the date of loss. They can't battle that.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So your recommendations would be if you're a little nervous, it would be a good idea. And so, do you charge for people to come out for a roof inspection?
Yes,
Okay.
it starts off at $250.
That's not bad.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so the further out I go, like if I'm driving an hour and a half or 2 hours, then I'll charge a little bit more because
That
of the
makes
time.
sense. Yes.
So, but between $250 and $450 is going to cover a basic inspection. I'll send you all send the client some photos. With a brief little report of what I saw up there.
Mm-hmm. So. From those types of inspections, will you give recommendations on you should probably file a claim now, and you know what I mean, instead of waiting for a storm to come because of the scenario that you just talked about?
Right. So what I tell them is like, hey, this is what I've seen up there. So like if I seen missing shingles or shingles that have what's called the creases in them, and that means they've been lifted by the wind and then laid back down. Or rusty nails because tabs are missing or whatever, then I'll say, this is something that your insurance carrier may cover. You may want to reach out to them. I don't use the word claim with them. If I'm filing a claim for myself, then I'll do that. But as far as making a phone call and making a recommendation for them to make a phone call to see for another person from their carrier to come out and look at the roof, might be a wise idea.
Okay, well, that's good to know. All right, so those are those services. Now you go out and if you go to somebody and they need a new roof, you're able to help them with that as well.
Yes, we do repairs. So roof scene services. I work for One World Roofing, and so with them, we have an agreement that if it's a repair job, that I can use the guys for the repair work, and we'll honor the 1-year warranty on that through roof scene services.
Gotcha.
A roof replacement, pulling permits and doing all that stuff where it takes a contractor's license is where we use One World Roofing. And then I will provide an estimate based on whatever their needs are.
Perfect. Okay, so you work with realtors. You also can do roof inspections, and then you can also do roof replacements.
Yes.
Is there anything else? That sounds like plenty to keep you busy.
Tarping, emergency tarping. My guys, if they have...
I guess that's the most important thing is to stop an active leak, right?
Correct. And sometimes an active leak, earlier we talked about where the tree limb and it made a hole, punctured hole. I carry tar in my truck all the time. They're like, oh, are you going to charge me? No, it's lately I put some tar into the hole and it's filled. Right. You're fine.
Now.
Well, don't you want to get paid for a tarp to be on there? I'm like, no. That's like, I look at myself in the mirror every morning and every night. So
I remember when FEMA went around and stapled tarps to people's roofs.
Oh, yes.
But we are running out of time. So if you could go ahead and give everybody all your contact information, that would be great, including your website, your socials, and email, and all the other good stuff.
All right. So just started up with our website. Ashley actually put it together from Get Me Automated. It's roofsceneservices.com. My phone number is 407-928-2525. And my email is roofscene, SCENE, services at gmail.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you for being our guest today. And you guys, thank you for tuning in. Have a great week, everyone. And remember to support local.